All right, here we have what looks like even some more interesting problems. In this case, we have 5x squared equals 2x plus 3. And are you kind of beginning to see the way we're going to be able to tell, which problems we can just solve for x and which problems we're going to have to use the zero product property on? It's this exponent that really tells you, there's no way when we have an x squared and an x both in the problem that we're going to be able to get x all by itself. Now, if this were not here, if we just had 5x equals 2x plus 3, then we could just start solving for x. It's this exponent that causes us a problem, and that's when we have to use the zero product property. Now, the zero product property says you have to have things multiplied together set equal to 0. We don't have things multiplied together here, and we don't have this equal to 0. So we've got some work to do before we can even use the property. But let's go ahead and let's move everything over to the left-hand side of the equation first. So that's going to give us 5x squared. And then if we subtract 2x over, it'd be minus 2x. And then if we subtract 3, that would be minus 3 equals, now we have nothing left on this side, so it's equal to 0. All right, well, that's looking better because at least it's equal to 0. But we need to have things multiplied together, factors set equal to 0, which means that we're going to have to go ahead and factor this problem down. Now, we have a trinomial, and the first coefficient is not a 1. So if you'll remember from our techniques, this is where we did the product sum method or the AC method, depending on what book you use. So we're going to multiply the first and the last terms together. That's going to give us a negative 15. And now we're going to list our factors, and we're going to stop when we get this negative 2 here in the middle. So let's see, 1 times 15, that won't work. 3 times 5, that would work if the 5 was negative and the 3 was positive. So we're going to use this to rewrite that middle term. So now we have 5x squared, but instead of minus 2x, I'm going to write it as plus 3x minus 5x, and then minus 3 equals 0. Now that we have 4 terms, we're going to use factor by grouping. So for the first 2 terms, these have an x in common. When we factor out the x, we're left with 5x plus 3. For the second 2 terms, remember, when we factor something out, we really want that exact same binomial. So what times 5x would give us negative 5x? That would be a negative 1. Check it to make sure that's correct. Negative 1 times positive 3 is negative 3, so that is correct. Now we have a common 5x plus 3 that we can factor out. So when we factor that out of both of these terms, we're left with an x and a positive 1, or sorry, a negative 1 equals 0. Now, we're not done yet. All we have done is factor down that left-hand side. But now we do have factors that are equal to 0. So we can now use the zero product property, which says either the first factor, 5x plus 3, has to be 0, or the second factor, x minus 1, has to be 0. And now we can solve each one of these. So if I subtract 3 from both sides, we have 5x equals negative 3. And if we divide both sides by 5, we get x equals negative 3/5. There's one answer. For the second answer, we would need to add 1 to both sides to get x equals a positive 1. So we had to do quite a bit of work with that problem, but you have to keep in mind that you need factors set equal to 0 in order to be able to use that property.